Hey man, y'all gotta see this. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and pull it up together so we can watch it at the same time because I don't know how to feel about it, but I do feel excited. Okay, so we're here on Instagram. You can see we're on Kevin Love's Instagram, which if you're not aware, he's been trolling for the last several weeks. It's actually been really funny. He's a great follow, but it's his most recent post, which he just dropped 30 minutes ago, which is causing a bit of a commotion on Heat Twitter. So let's go ahead and click on it. Y'all can watch the video right here.
I'm not fucking leaving.
So, of course, you can see it's the very famous clip / meme from the Wolf of Wall Street movie in which Leonardo DiCaprio screams, "I'm not leaving." And if you look at the caption that Kevin Love put on this post, he says, "Live look, Jimmy after his meeting with Mickey, #GetMyJoyBack." Now, of course, this is very funny. Like I said, Kevin Love has been a great troll on Instagram. But the reason that I'm so excited is because if you look down at the bottom of this post, you can see that over 10,000 people liked it already. But if you scroll down a little bit, one of them is a man by the name of Jimmy Butler. Now, of course, Jimmy liking this post doesn't really mean anything necessarily, but it does have me excited because I still am holding out that ignorant hope that somehow Mickey and Jimmy found a way to work everything out because, of course, they had their meeting today, and I've been waiting all day to make a video on the results of that meeting, what exactly occurred. I was hoping we'd get some reports on that, but it's currently past 5 p.m. and we've heard nothing yet. So I wanted to at least get this video out while we got this news and a little bit of other news. Whoa, hold up, stop the video. I see that you are not subscribed yet. That's crazy. Nah, but for real, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button. It really helps your boy out a lot. I greatly appreciate it. Now let's get back to the video. And if something else breaks, I'm sure I'll go live later or make another video discussing that. But this was a little bit of a fun thing for Heat fans here. I do like the fact that these players are kind of acknowledging what's going on with the whole Jimmy Butler thing, because especially as fans, a lot of times we're just left in the dark with this stuff. Of course, we got a lot of reporting, but most reporting out there is just leverage plays. You have both sides putting out these BS reports, and as fans, we have no idea what's exactly true. And I'm not sure a lot of the players know either, just because they're in the locker room. They don't know what's going on behind closed doors with the front office and all this stuff. So the least thing that the players could do is just have fun with it. And that's what Kevin Love has been doing. And as a fan, I do appreciate that the fact that he's like acknowledging that, yeah, there's some drama going on, but let's have some fun with it. You know, we're still here to have good chemistry, and the power of friendship and tomfoolery seems to be at an all-time high. We saw that on this past road trip with the Heat. The vibes were great. Although they only finished 3-3, the vibes were still pretty good. And of course, Jimmy Butler is supposed to be returning tomorrow versus the Denver Nuggets, or at least his suspension is over. So will he play? I don't exactly know. Truthfully, I kind of thought that's what Mickey and Jimmy were going to discuss today in their meeting. I was hopeful that Jimmy was going to play originally, you know, when he was first suspended, because we got some early reports saying that, yeah, Jimmy's fully prepared to come back and play for the Heat if he's not traded by then. And here we are, unless Jimmy gets traded in the next 24 hours, he'll be on the team when the Heat take on the Denver Nuggets. But I don't see how the front office can really mortgage what's going on with their team right now from a chemistry perspective, especially with the young guys. When you just came off this road trip with guys like Khalil Ware and Nikola Jovic and Jaime Jaquez really having some bright moments, and Tyler Hero really taking the leap into all-stardom, I don't see how they would want to risk messing that up and stunting the growth of some of these guys by bringing Jimmy Butler back. Just truthfully, I think if the team was struggling on the road trip and if the young guys didn't look so great, then okay, bring Jimmy back. What do you got to lose? But now I'm not so sure, especially when you consider the last time we really heard Jimmy speak was after that game versus the Pacers where they got blown out, and Jimmy kind of called out Eric Spoelstra. Jimmy said that he wasn't really happy with his role here, and he's talking to Spoelstra about that. So is Spoelstra offended by any of that? I don't think so. I think Spoelstra is so far past that. He's seen literally everything that could possibly happen in this league. I don't think he's the type to hold grudges, but that doesn't change the fact that there still is a weird dynamic between Jimmy and Spo, and maybe Jimmy and the rest of the team, because he kind of did quit on his team. You know, as much as I blame the front office really for starting all of this and the lack of communication between Pat Riley and Jimmy, which we'll get into, I do blame the front office for that. there is no denying that Jimmy did quit on this team, and I just don't know how the players feel about that. Now, of course, it was like yesterday, the day before, that Shams came out and reiterated that Jimmy wants a trade. He actually said that Jimmy had to sit down with Pat Riley face-to-face and confirm that. Although that reporting was even a little bit confusing to me and a bit contradictory, like most of the reporting is, but mostly because we heard that Jimmy felt like he needed to meet with Pat face-to-face a while ago, like after Pat made those comments about keep your mouth shut, and it never happened. Actually, it was reported that Jimmy expected Pat to fly out to him in California or wherever Jimmy was at and have the face-to-face there, and it never happened. So if Shams is trying to say that finally that face-to-face happened recently within the last couple of days, then I guess. But then why is Jimmy meeting today with Mickey and not Pat? Not to say that today's meeting was just Jimmy and Mickey in a room and no one else. I don't think that's the case. Even Ethan Skolnick on 5 Reasons was saying that Mickey's son, Nick, is likely there. I'm sure Jimmy's agent, Bernie Lee, is there. And who knows, maybe Spo is there too. Maybe Pat Riley is there today. But I just feel like if Pat was meeting with Jimmy, that would have been in the initial report outside of just Mickey Arison. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what exactly comes out of this meeting, because I started leaning towards the mindset that they were just going to meet so they could amicably split ways for the rest of the season, instead of suspending Jimmy Butler again, because you can't suspend Jimmy again unless he does something worthy of suspension, because the league would have to get involved then. And I certainly don't think Jimmy wants to get suspended again, because he already missed out on like $3 million missing those 7 games. But at the same time, I don't think the Heat really want to bring him back into the fold. Now, I hope they do. I hope Jimmy plays tomorrow. And as of right now, it's looking like he will, because we haven't heard anything different. But I just wouldn't be surprised if some news comes out like in the next 24 hours that's saying, hey, Jimmy's out today, personal reasons. Him and the team mutually agreed to let Jimmy sit home. That's kind of what I was thinking that potentially this meeting with Mickey Arison is. For example, on the Clippers, PJ Tucker hasn't played all season because him and the Clippers agreed to let PJ sit home while they work to find a trade for him or a buyout or whatever the case may be. Maybe that is the case with Jimmy Butler and we don't see him tomorrow. But I hope he plays, man, because I love Jimmy. I don't love that he quit on his team, but the facts are he has given me some of the greatest moments as a Heat fan, since the championships, since the last one back in 2013. So I'll love Jimmy forever for that. And also, if y'all didn't hear, like I've been saying, I'm actually going to the next game, not the one versus Denver, the one after that on Sunday versus Spurs. And I'm hoping I at least get to see Jimmy for one last time, unless Jimmy doesn't go anywhere, like Kevin Love would say. I really don't know. But it'll be interesting to hear if we get some more details out about this meeting. But again, though, with the whole Pat Riley thing, it's just bad communication at the end of the day, which is so unfortunate because all of this really could have been avoided. Even Dwayne Wade was saying that when he was on his podcast. That's kind of the news that was circulating yesterday. Dwayne Wade came out and said that a few things of interest. He said, yeah, players will still want to come to Miami. So saying that this puts a bad look for the organization with regards to players wanting to come here, that's just BS. You still got the shining lights of Miami, and if Miami's paying, players will come. And I do agree with that at the end of the day. And Dwayne Wade did acknowledge, though, that it's tragic for Miami that their relationships with their star players always seem to end poor. So that was kind of good to hear him acknowledge that, yeah, he knows, and we all know, that his relationship with Pat Riley didn't end great initially when he went to Chicago, but obviously they've made amends since. But even with LeBron and Chris Bosh and Alonzo Mourning, those relationships didn't end well either, although they do all seem to be in a better spot now. So although it looks like this breakup with Jimmy and Pat is not getting any better, I do believe that one day they'll be able to make amends as well, and we'll get Jimmy's jersey retired in the rafters one day, which I'm definitely looking forward to, and I will be at that game because I got to show the respect to Jimmy Butler. But to Dwayne Wade's point of this, of him saying this all could have been avoided, I completely agree, because it's just about communication. And unfortunately, it seems like you got 2 stubborn powerhouses in Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley that just couldn't find a way to work it out. Because, they literally have a relationship, just like a relationship between you and your significant other, whether it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, whatever it is, you got to communicate. I truly don't believe that you can have any successful relationship without communication. And it's unfortunate because it really seems like this relationship truly failed because of communication issues. I know we've heard all these reports, especially yesterday too. Chris Haynes came out with a bunch of stuff like, oh, Jimmy was mad the offense changed this year that didn't really tailor to his numbers because he's in a contract year and wants to get paid. That's just BS. I think both sides could have leaked something from there because Jimmy wants to put out there, hey, it's not my fault my numbers are down. Spoelstra put a system in place to make Tyler Hero stand out and not me. That's why my numbers are down. But then the Heat could have put that news out too to say, hey, look how selfish Jimmy's being because Jimmy only cares about his money, doesn't care about the success of the team. So that could be the Heat trying to villainize Jimmy Butler. And so who knows what's real with that. I really should make a full video breaking down every rumor we've heard in the last 3 weeks and whose side I think it came from because they're all leverage plays. One of the other reports that was going around yesterday was when Chris Haynes said Jimmy Butler was upset one of his paychecks was received 10 days late because of an accounting error. That just seems like, maybe Jimmy's camp grasping for straws at this point. Because then again, I even heard Ethan Skolnick report that the accounting error was on Jimmy's side. And as soon as the Heat were alerted, they fixed it right away. So who's really at fault there? I don't know. But what I do know is these all seem like petty reasons to try to justify a breakup that could have been avoided if communication was right. That's just the reality of the situation. And I do blame mostly Pat Riley for that because he's the boss. He is. But I'm hoping there's still the miracle out there that they can make amends, man. And it could all work out and they could live happily ever after and go win the championship this year. Because it is to Jimmy's best interest to go out there tomorrow versus Denver and ball the hell out. It would be in his best interest to go Minnesota Jimmy with regards to what he did in the practice with the third stringers and dominate the starters because Jimmy's got to show these other teams that he has value because he wants to get paid. Now, the Suns may pay him regardless, but if he can't get to the Suns, he'd have to entice the Milwaukee Bucks, for example, that he deserves to be paid. Another team we heard more rumors about today. We'll get into that in a little bit too. But and obviously it benefits the Heat because if Jimmy does go out there and perform, there might be more of a market for him in the trade market and he could get more assets in return. So it really doesn't make any sense for either side for Jimmy to sit home. You just got to kind of hope that they can, that both sides can be adults here and make it work out. Whether they're not happily together for after, you got to make it work for this season. And then you go into the off season, whether Jimmy opts in or not, but just help him get to his destination that he wants to go in. But yeah, because maybe it is the Bucks. We heard that report today where it was a refute of the report we heard a week ago where Jimmy's camp said he wouldn't go to the Bucks. Now they're saying he could. And it scares me as a Heat fan because it is a little reminiscent of Damian Lillard when all you heard was Miami, 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 and out of nowhere the Bucks swooped in and got him. It kind of sounds like what might happen here with Dame or with Jimmy. I do think the Bucks have an intriguing trade package as a Heat fan. It would most certainly be Chris Middleton and Bobby Portis coming to Miami because the salaries match that way. But because the Bucks are currently over the second apron, they would actually need to send out more money than they're receiving in. Or at least they would have to send enough money out to be under the second apron by the time the trade is completed. Because one of the limitations of being a second apron team is you can't aggregate players in a trade. You can only do 1-for-1 player swaps. And obviously, the Bucks having to send out Middleton and Portis, that's 2 players. They can't do that if they're over the second apron after the trade. That's why in this particular trade that I have up here right now, I have, of course, the Heat getting Middleton and Portis, the Bucks getting Jimmy Butler and a second-round pick from the Pistons because they are sending the Pistons Pat Connaughton. And by the Pistons taking on that $9.4 million that Pat Connaughton is owed, this would allow the Bucks to be under the second apron by the time the trade is completed. And then, every side kind of wins here, or I guess wins the best they can. Because from the Pistons' perspective, maybe they just want some more shooting with Pat Connaughton, so they just get him for a second-round pick. That's not bad value. Obviously, the Bucks get Jimmy Butler, which I think would be a great big three, a win-now big three, which you need because Dame's not getting any younger. So obviously, Dame, Jimmy, Giannis, that team would compete in the East. And from the Heat perspective, man, they're getting 2 decent players. Now, it's not necessarily a build for the future play, but the unfortunate reality is this Heat team doesn't tank, for better or for worse. You could argue, as a Heat fan, certainly this is a dumb trade. Just build into the young guys, try to get picks if you can, or try to get younger players. But the Heat just don't tank. They want to field a competitive roster, and they certainly could do that with this trade. I mean, you'd have a starting lineup of Tyler, I guess Duncan at the 2, either Duncan or Haywood, but Spo would never put Haywood at the 2 like he should. But you'd have Spo would probably keep Terry Rozier at the 2, but I'm hoping the Heat trade Terry Rozier by the trade deadline too. But anyways, whether it's Tyler and Terry or Duncan at the 2 spot, and then you got Middleton at the 3, Bobby Portis would slide in perfectly at that 4 spot, and then you got Bam Adebayo at the 5. Obviously, 3 years ago, this is a much better trade than it is now with regards to value for the Heat because Chris Middleton was a lot younger back then. He's only 33 now, which is not super old, but he really can't stay healthy. A lot of injury concerns there. He's only played 16 games this season. He hasn't played over 70 games since like 2019. It's funny though, because this past postseason, he was the only healthy one for the Bucks because Dame and Giannis were hurt, and he played. And once again, he played pretty phenomenal, especially in that Pacers series. So like Jimmy Butler, Chris Middleton is a playoff riser to a much smaller extent, but he still is a playoff riser and someone the Heat could certainly use. He's still a very efficient player. He's shooting like 37% from three this year, which is a little bit down, but he's obviously had some inconsistent minutes and injuries. If he was to get healthy, that would go back up to the 40% that he usually shoots, I'm sure. But he's just a very efficient player overall, and he's a great scorer. And this Heat offense has been Tyler Hero or bust. They could use a guy like Chris Middleton. He does have a $31 million contract this year, and that would be $34 million next year with the player option. Whether he opts into that or not, I think really depends on how healthy he stays the remainder of this season. But then, of course, the Heat are also getting Bobby Portis, 29 years old, so he's right in that kind of win now. Plus, you'd have another good 4 years of him at least. But he's only getting paid $12 million this year, $13 million player option next year. He probably would opt out of that to ask for more money. But he's exactly what the Heat need. We know he's a Heat culture guy. Obviously, as Heat fans, we hate him, but we would love him if he was on our team. He's 6'10", a very decent three-point shooter for his position, excellent rebounder. He would obviously have a clear role here, and he's just a hard hustle guy. And the Heat have been missing some actual Heat culture guys for a long time now. He's a guy that would just fit in here perfectly. But I'm gonna have a full video out about like a Jimmy to Bucks trade and breaking down this trade further, probably in a future video. I didn't want to spend too much longer doing that today, but because there was some news today regarding the Bucks, I figured we would at least touch on it a little bit. But anyways, that's really all I got to say for this video. I'm gonna refresh Twitter real quick here just in case something else happened, because I kind of assumed we were gonna get a little bit more news today than we did, but nothing yet. So we'll keep an eye on Twitter. And of course, I'll be coming to y'all with Heat content as we go along. Tomorrow is going to be an exciting day with the hopeful return of Jimmy Butler. Maybe permanently, if you ask Kevin Love, we'll see. But make sure y'all subscribe so you don't miss all the great content I got coming for you. Like the video and comment. I will be reading every single comment, and all the support is greatly appreciated. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out, y'all.
Look, pull up in your city tryna get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.